Hello there viewers, welcome to today's video. Today I am at the famous Haworth Village in West Yorkshire, which was famously the home of the Bronte sisters who wrote the classic novels during the 19th century. Today I'm going to talk about Haworth during the 19th century, and I'm going to talk about a lost generation in the village, and it was a really sad time, tragic time for Haworth during that period of time, and quite heartbreaking to be honest. And I'm going to talk about it during this documentary because I think it's important to talk about the history of Haworth, and it gets so many tourists, thousands and thousands of tourists come to visit Haworth, and it does have quite a sad past, but I think it's, it is important to look back at history. So I'm going to talk about it during this video. The bells of the church are just ringing in the background at the moment. It's 12:15, so it's not long after midday now. And yeah, I'll talk about this lost generation and really get into it. And it's just such a hard-hitting story, but I think it's important to show it really, because it's only through learning about history that we see how times have changed and how lucky we are these days to have such good conditions compared to what they used to be a couple of hundred years ago. During the 19th century, Haworth faced a combination of huge problems, including a severely contaminated water supply, a massively inadequate sewage disposal, and also living conditions were very poor at the time as well, because Haworth was quite overpopulated, and in many cases families were having to share the same toilets, and quite big families were having to share the same homes, which were quite cramped at the time. So all these things, all these factors came together, and it proved to be a really deadly time actually to live in Haworth during that period. And this contaminated water supply was actually running through this graveyard as well. And when you have a look around this graveyard, it really hits you. It's so overpopulated, you can feel it straight away. And it must have been an absolutely horrific time to live in the village of Haworth during that time, during the 19th century. Before, during and after the Bronte sisters wrote their masterpieces, Haworth was facing dire, deadly sanitary conditions. By the 1840s and 1850s, the life expectancy for an adult in Haworth was only 24 to 25 years old on average. So it was an exceptionally low life expectancy, and it was really, really tragic for the amount of children, the amount of infants that died as well. So there's the Bronte parsonage just in the distance there, where the Bronte family live. And if I just swing the camera around, the church is actually just there. So one of the statistics that's really tragic, and this is where it really hits home, 41% of children in Haworth during that period of time died before the age of 6. Absolutely unimaginable. The Bronte family's father, Patrick Bronte, was the reverend at this church, and he actually campaigned massively to improve the living conditions, and it was due to his persistence and his campaigning that they actually built a reservoir just close to Haworth. So he really wanted to improve the conditions because he was seeing it every day. You know, he was the reverend and he was having to deal with all of these burials and everything. So it must have been really tragic for him to see, and he must have been so concerned about his own family and about his community around the village as well, because it was just such. It's really hard to imagine these days, because we have so much these days that we take for granted, really. During 1849 and 1850, after the deaths of Reverend Patrick Bronte's children and also many of his parishioners, he sent petitions to investigate the lack of water supply and huge lack of hygiene in the village. A government inspector named Benjamin Herschel Babbage was sent over to Haworth in 1850 to just inspect just how many problems and issues there was with the sanitation around the village, and he was absolutely shocked by his findings, what he found out. Having been absolutely shocked and appalled by the high mortality rates in Haworth, Patrick Bronte had petitioned to the General Board of Health in London, and this prompted Babbage's visit to Haworth. And poor Patrick Bronte, you know, he was having to deal with so many deaths, so many burials day after day. He was massively overworked, and this must have taken a huge toll on his own health, and he just had to keep on going every day. And when you think about the Bronte family, the Bronte sisters and Bramwell, and just imagine the contrast what they had. If they looked out of the back of the parsonage, they saw the beautiful Haworth Moors, but if they looked out of the front of the parsonage, all they saw was funeral after funeral after funeral. So just imagine what people witnessed back then, and it doesn't bear thinking about, to be honest. It's absolutely horrific. The impact of the Babbage report was absolutely huge, and it led to massive improvements in sewerage and also drainage improvements around the village. And it's such a shame that, you know, things just got so bad. They got to the point really where they just could not have got much worse, and massive improvements were made thanks to Patrick Bronte's persistence and the local community all pulling together and signing the petitions. And the community was absolutely devastated during that time. Practically every family had lost people in their family members, and it was a time really that changed Haworth forever. And these improvements took time to really put into place, but thankfully we've got the Haworth now that we know and love, and we can come and visit Haworth, and it's a completely different place now. So this is the parsonage. So this was the site of the gate leading to the church used by the Bronte family, and through which they were carried to their final resting place in the church. So this is actually the walkway where the Bronte family were carried to their final resting place. So I'll just show you the walkway. Would have been straight down here. Straight through here. And the Bronte graves are actually just inside of the church. Open drains, overflowing cesspits and slaughterhouse refuge contributed to much of the waste flowing down the main street in Haworth. And it was just such a big combination of things that were going wrong, and it was having such a huge impact on people's lives, to the effect that lots and lots of people were dying far too young. And these people came from all different walks of life, you know, and they would have shaped the fabric of the local community. There would have been shopkeepers, mill workers, wool staplers, wool sorters, all sorts of people really. Diseases like typhoid and cholera run riot through the village, and just imagine practically a whole generation that were just wiped out by all these different diseases, and it's just so scary to think about. And there was a few people that lived until their 70s and 80s, but it was rare. It was very, very rare. I mean, Patrick Bronte lived until his 80s, and yeah, when you think that the average adult lived until 24, 25-year-old, it really does make you feel the whole impact of it. As I mentioned earlier, many households were sharing the same toilets, and there was only actually 69 toilets for the entire village, just 69 toilets. So you can imagine that many households had to queue up and share the toilets and everything. Thanks so much everybody for watching this video of Haworth, and tell me in the comments what you thought about this video. And it's it is so heartbreaking, you know. And yeah, when you come and visit Haworth, if you haven't visited here before, it's well worth coming to visit. It's so steeped in history, and when you look around the church, the parsonage, the old schoolrooms, the main street, there's so much to see, so much to explore and experience, and there's just so much history to uncover. So I hope that you found this video interesting, everybody. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel, and until next time, everybody, take care.